Did I actually see what I thought I saw at the end of the Texas A&M Clemson game? I saw a tight end, number 85, Jalen Whittemire for Texas A&M, celebrate, throw his hands up, looking at the Clemson crowd, Clemson supporters, behind the end line of the end zone after he caught a touchdown, a meaningless, to some, touchdown, a meaningless, in terms of game result, touchdown, meaningless, the most meaningless play in the game. He threw his hands up, celebrated. Wow, look at me. I scored a meaningless touchdown. And he was happy about that. His team bragged all week. Maybe he didn't, but a number of them did. Talked about how well they played last year and they played so great and they should have won and they guaranteed a win. Not one knucklehead, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 Aggie knuckleheads guaranteed a win, and they were curb stomped in this one. 24-10. 24-10 doesn't do it justice. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down Clemson's 16th consecutive win as they knock off Texas A&M in what, on paper, should prove to be their most difficult game of the season. Now, if that plays out, they may have closer games. They may have opponents that rise up and play them tougher, possibly. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. But this is the best team that they will play, especially since what we saw in College Park out of Syracuse today, giving up 63 to the Terps. This is the best team Clemson will face this year, including the ACC championship game. And it wasn't even close. Some 24-10 games are close, competitive games. This was not. Clemson had how many defensive linemen drafted from last season? It looked like 0. Texas A&M had some issues coming into this game. Their offensive line play last year was not good. They had 5 starters coming back. We talked about it all offseason in analyzing Texas A&M football. Would this offensive line get better? They were not nearly as good as they would need to be against these types of teams, Clemson, Alabama, and others. And they weren't better. Clemson was all over Kellen Mond. All over him. He didn't have a chance. And he also played like garbage. So it was not a good combination for Texas A&M, and the reason they basically scored 3 points. They basically scored a field goal that meant something, that was meaningful at the time in taking a 3-0 lead, but otherwise A&M could do nothing against this Clemson defense that was spectacular. Dominant up front, dominant in covering one of the best wide receiver corps in college football. This Texas A&M crew last year in Kyle Field had just turned in a clinic of high-pointing the football, fighting for 50-50 balls, burning the Clemson defense. Great wide receiver corps, just about all of them back. Davis and Osborne on down the line. Actually, it was the wide receiver corps and Mond who set the trend on the first series. Very first play of the game could have been a 15-yard gain. Ball was delivered on time to the outside. Courtney Davis dropped it. That would have been a first down. 3rd down and 10. Kellen Mond had the receiver, number 14, wide open. Would have been a touchdown. Trying to think who that was. Anyway, I forgot my notes. Whoever that was would have been a touchdown. He was covered by Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker. He would have been gone for the touchdown. Mond missed him by a mile. Wide open. And so it went. Kellen Mond was awful. He couldn't throw outlets out to the running backs. Till the final drive of the game, he showed up in that one and played very well. The final drive of the game that was meaningless, that was capped off by the touchdown by the tight end, Whittemire. That was meaningless, unless, of course, you like to put a few bucks on the game with Clemson a 16 or 17-point favorite, and the final score was 24-10, of course. But in terms of competitive football on the field, meaningless. Clemson, it was key what they did with Travis Etienne in this game. They made him a receiver, made him more receiver than runner. Texas A&M, very, very strong against the run. Last year, 3rd in the nation. Considering they played very strong rush teams last year. They played Clemson, Alabama, LSU, and they played 3 very strong rushing teams, especially Bama and Clemson. LSU was off its game on the ground last year. Mississippi State, Auburn, and third in the nation in rush defense, giving up just 95 per game last year and just as good today until they started to get worn down in the fourth quarter, and Clemson ripped off some big runs, Lynn J. Dixon in particular. So the numbers in front of me. Yeah, Dixon had 11 carries for 79 yards. Etienne only 16 for 53, coming off 205 against Georgia Tech. But again, they used him as a pass catcher in the second half, 4 catches, 52 yards. T. Higgins had that amazing grab down near the goal line that was both amazing from the standpoint of Trevor Lawrence trusting him in double coverage and delivered a dart. And Higgins contorted his body, reached behind him, caught the ball inside the 5-yard line to set up a Trevor Lawrence keeper for the touchdown. But it was Clemson's defense that was just ridiculous beyond dominance in this one in just holding Kellen Mond. 24-42 passing, 236. Doesn't sound awful, but it was awful. It was awful when it counted. Clemson only gave up 2 yards per carry, and there was no Travion Williams there to help Texas A&M, and they lost a lot when he moved on to the NFL. So Texas A&M talks a lot. They go to Clemson. They get blasted 24-10. Again, it was just a dominant win. It wasn't like we're scoring 50 points and we're going to annihilate you. It was a controlled win. The Texas A&M defense played rather well, again, especially against the run. Trevor Lawrence, 24 for 35 through the air. Justin Ross showed to be a man a number of times in stealing passes away from Texas A&M defenders. But, man, this was a game in which Texas A&M's offensive line against Clemson's defensive line, that was the game right there. Kellen Mond, for as good as he was in the second half against Clemson, giving the Aggies a shot, throwing for 430 yards, most of that in the second half, and 3 touchdowns, no picks last year. Just not nearly the same game, wasn't the same guy, and that's what A&M needed. They needed him to be that guy. He's a career 56% passer, and he shows it there. And in modern college football, that's typically not good enough. You need your guy that throw between 62 and 65% completion percentage, and especially with that wide receiver core that pulls down just about everything. They had an off day as well, though. So Clemson's defense, for all those that worried about the Tigers defensively after all those losses in the front 7, especially that front 4 on defense, wow. The kids that they recruited, the recruiting rankings say that they should have been just as good, but you worry about the gamesmanship, the experience, and just the ability to play in the clutch and on the big stage, but they did it today. Clemson wins for a 16th consecutive time, defeats Texas A&M 24-10. So would love to know what you have to say about this game. It got to the place in the late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, when Nebraska and Colorado became my focus. But all games on all screens, obviously, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will be back with analysis of Nebraska and Colorado very soon. I've locked into this game in the fourth quarter and overtime right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Best analysis, discussion, and debate right here, including what you bring to the table. That's what makes it work right here, again, at the voice of college football.